Hello there, everyone. If you're watching this video, then you are part of the TTOR Army, an army that is building itself up one subscriber at a time. I know it's been a few days since I last did a video, but yeah, I've been busy with work and my gaming channel and just a general need to relax and avoid burnout regarding the more serious topics that we cover here on the TTOR channel. But this is one video that I absolutely could not pass on. I could not just go, whatever. This is something that has to be talked about. If you've been paying attention to tech news recently, you know that Susan Wojcicki, the CEO of YouTube, or at least she was the CEO of YouTube, recently announced her resignation as CEO of YouTube. And you can see this resignation right here on the screen, as you can see on Twitter. So we have on screen a tweet by Reclaim the Net, which is a tech publication that tends to call out YouTube censorship and promote YouTube alternatives, among other things tech-related. The tweet by Reclaim the Net says, YouTube CEO Susan Wojcicki is resigning. Wojcicki says she's leaving to start a new chapter focused on my family, health, and personal projects I'm passionate about. She'll be replaced by Neal Mohan, YouTube's Chief Product Officer. And here is the actual letter that Susan penned. Dear creators, earlier today I sent an email to employees announcing that I'd be stepping back from my role as the head of YouTube to start a new chapter focused on my family, health, and personal projects I'm passionate about. It has been the honor of my career to have a front row seat to the incredible YouTube community you have built. Your stories of perseverance, creativity, and inspiration were a daily source of motivation and inspired me to be an advocate and steward for this community you all created. It was a constant highlight of my job to sit down with you, hear how you were using the platform, and listen to feedback. Sometimes what you said was tough and candid, but it was important for me and the wider YouTube team to listen and do better. Today, the YouTube community is incredibly strong. You're building businesses and following your dreams. You will continue to have someone committed to building and advocating for creators at the helm of YouTube. YouTube's longtime Chief Product Officer, Neal Mohan, will take over the leadership role. He is an excellent leader and understands this community and what you need today, tomorrow, and in the future better than anyone. I plan to stay around for a period of time to help Neal with the transition and will serve as an advisor to Google and Alphabet. I remain just as convinced today as when I started 9 years ago that YouTube's best days are ahead of it. From shorts to podcasting, streaming to subscriptions, I am excited to see what comes next. And with Neal and our incredible team of employees, you will all be in good hands. Finally, thank you for everything over the years. Thank you for welcoming me into your studios, your homes, and your lives. Thank you for letting me be a part of the incredible stories you're sharing with the world. With admiration, Susan. Now, let's explain very carefully why I am glad that this turd burrito is stepping down. Notice how in the second paragraph of her letter, she tries to paint herself as a champion and advocate for independent content creators who made YouTube what it is over the last 20 years, roughly. Well, the truth about Susan Wojcicki is that she actually doesn't give a lick about any of the creators on YouTube, no matter how big or small that they are. And I have several reasons for saying this, all of which are documented on my BitChute channel. For example, back in May of 2019, I did a video titled, YouTube Removes Broadcast Yourself Motto Declares War on Content Creators. Now, what happened at the beginning of May of 2019 is that YouTube literally removed the broadcast yourself motto from their branding that had been part of their branding since their inception. The whole idea behind the broadcast yourself motto was that you, the independent creator, would be your own television channel and your content is what the world would see from your channel. It was all about supporting the independent creators' user-generated content. And YouTube for a long time was exactly that. And Broadcast Yourself was the big drive behind that. But as YouTube started to become more and more corporate and they started to cater more and more to the legacy media and the television networks, among other people, what they decided to do in May of 2019 is they removed the Broadcast Yourself motto from all of their official branding, and I proved that they did it in this video. Also, though, in this video, I responded to a YouTube blog post written by Susan herself at the time that this motto was removed from their branding. She actually had a blog post where she admitted that independent creators who hadn't violated YouTube's community guidelines were unjustly censored by YouTube, but she offered no apologies and showed no remorse. She even said specifically that the fact that innocent creators were unfairly censored by YouTube was justified because, well, we were trying to stop the spread of misinformation, and think of the children, guys. We can't have the children seeing all this misinformation, so we're going to censor a whole bunch of stuff, and all you people who were unfairly censored as a result, too bad. That was literally Susan herself back in 2019, and I'll have the link to this video in the description box below, so that you can see this video for yourself and not just take my word for it. And with over 3,700 views on my BitChute channel, this video is my second most popular BitChute video. Now, there's more than just this, though. Back in 2020, YouTube CEO Susan Wojcicki says that she doesn't care what the users on her website want, or at least she said that back then, back at the beginning of this whole lockdown mania that we went through for a couple of years. And my video was a response to this article by reclaimthenet.org titled, YouTube CEO, Users Don't Like Authoritative Mainstream Media Channels, but We Boost Them Anyway. Subtitle says, Susan Wojcicki confirms your suspicions. Now I'm just going to read the part of the article that supports what I say. Over the last few years, YouTube and its executives have made it clear that when it comes to news and current events, authoritative sources, mainstream media outlets it deems to be trustworthy, will get boosted via the platform's recommendation tools, while independent creators who cover the news will be suppressed. And during an interview on the New York Times Rabbit Hole podcast, YouTube CEO Susan Wojcicki admitted that most YouTube users don't want to watch these authoritative sources, but said the platform will continue to boost them anyway. Wojcicki said that she decided to start prioritizing authoritative sources in the wake of the terrorist attack in Nice, France on Bastille Day, July 14th in 2016. I remember reading about it and being just extremely upset and thinking our users needed to know about it, Wojcicki said. She then decided that YouTube would start pushing videos about the attack to the homepage of users in France and prioritized videos from authoritative sources, i.e. the legacy media, when French users searched for information about the attack. However, after making the change, YouTube engineers warned Wojcicki videos from the mainstream authoritative sources weren't performing very well in terms of engagement. The users don't want to actually see it, the engineers told Wojcicki at the time. But Wojcicki decided to keep showing the videos to users and told the engineers, it doesn't matter. We have a responsibility. Something happened in the world and it's important for our users to know. She added that this was the first time YouTube started pushing information to users that was relevant, even if the users didn't want to see it compared to other content. So back in 2020, former YouTube CEO Susan Wojcicki admitted that she was willing to push content from the legacy media onto YouTube users even if they didn't want to see it. Does that sound like someone who really cares about the independent content creator community on YouTube, or cares about the average YouTube user's experience on YouTube? Doesn't sound like it to me. I'm going to push stuff on you even if you don't want to see it because it's relevant and it's for your own good. Now you can see a more detailed response to this article that I just showed you on screen in my BitChute video, so link to that will also be in the description box below. But then, in April of 2021, I put out a video titled, Susan Wojcicki claims that independent creators are basement-dwelling losers who put out fake news. This video was a response to this reclaimthenet.org article that came out one day before my birthday that year, titled, YouTube CEO. It's easy to make up content and post it from your basement, so we boost authoritative sources. Subtitle says, Defeating the purpose of YouTube. Make up news from corporate media is allowed. So, the article says right here, YouTube CEO Susan Wojcicki has acknowledged that the platform's policy of boosting authoritative mainstream media sources and suppressing independent creators in search makes it harder in some cases for channels, maybe who are getting started or smaller, to be able to be visible when there's a major event or when people are looking at something that is science or news related, but insists that the policy is really, really important. Wojcicki made the comments during an interview with the Atlantic CEO Nicholas Thompson at the World Economic Forum's Global Technology Governance Summit 2021. While she acknowledged that this policy does make it harder for creators in some cases, Wojcicki argued that the policy is necessary. When we had the Las Vegas shooting, unfortunately, there were a lot of people who were uploading content that was not factual, that was not correct. And it's much easier to just make up content and post it from your basement than it is to actually go to the site and be able to report and have high-quality journalistic reporting. And so that was just an example of what happens if you don't have that kind of ranking. So sure, we want to enable citizen journalism and other people to be able to report and other people to be able to share information on new channels, but while we're dealing with a sensitive topic, we have to have that information coming from authoritative sources so that the right and accurate information is viewed by our users first. So in other words, independent content creators who cover current events just like the legacy media does, according to Susan Wojcicki, we're just basement-dwelling losers who put out wildly inaccurate or false stories regarding current events, and that's why we have to boost the authoritative sources, the legacy media propaganda outlets, and we have to demote and suppress and censor you guys. This is who Susan Wojcicki really is, ladies and gentlemen, and so her resigning from YouTube's CEO position is great news for me because she's a horrible, wicked, evil person. Now notice in paragraph number 3, she says that product officer Neal Mohan is going to take over the CEO position and that she's going to help him transition into his new role as YouTube's CEO. Now, some people might be tempted to think, okay, with Susan Wojcicki leaving YouTube and this other guy taking over, is the censorship on YouTube going to lessen? Are freedom of speech values going to become more prominent on YouTube with a new CEO? The answer to that question is a big hell no. Back in May of 2020, I put out a video called YouTube Claims Independent Content Creators Are Losers Living in Basements Who Can't Do Journalism. And this article that I responded to in this video, also on reclaimthenet.org, is responding to what Neal Mohan, the new CEO, said back in 2020 when he was the chief product officer. The article is titled, YouTube Creators Espousing Opinions in Their Basement Can't Provide Context on the News. Subtitle says, YouTube is cementing the power of the already established players, making it difficult for small creators to get traction. Neal Mohan, the chief product officer of YouTube, the platform that was created to let anyone with a camera have a voice, has suggested that independent YouTubers who share their opinion on the news can't provide context and said that this is why they need to be suppressed and censored when it comes to newsworthy topics. Mohan made the comments during an interview with Protocol's editor-at-large David Pierce when he was asked about whether health authorities changing their advice about the coronavirus, such as the way they changed their recommendations around masks, is causing YouTube to be slightly behind when it comes to moderating content. In his response, Mohan said that the changing guidance on masks reflects how the actual underlying information is changing in a fundamental way really rapidly. He then said this is the reason authoritative voices need to be boosted on YouTube. This is the reason why I feel really strongly that when users are looking for this information, making sure that we're raising up authoritative voices is important, because the way that the question around masks will be covered by a credible sort of authoritative voice channel is that there would be context, there would be explanations behind why a particular mask decision is made or not, and so the user, the viewer of that content on our platform, can make an informed decision for him or herself. Mohan went on to compare authoritative content to content from other creators and suggested that these other creators don't provide the same level of context as mainstream media outlets and medical professionals. As opposed to, it's somebody espousing their opinions about a mask, in their basement. This is coming from an authoritative channel, a news source, a medical professional. If that's the case, we think there's going to be some context that's provided around the question of masks. And even if that guidance changes, it will be reflected in sort of how an authoritative voice or channel talks about it. Not only did Mohan suggest that only authoritative sources can provide context on coronavirus-related news stories, but he also used this rationale as justification for censoring other creators. That's where falling back to really raising up authoritative channels, videos from authoritative channels, is important, and at the same time removing or reducing views of the videos where that same level of authority hasn't been established. So in other words, just like Susan Wojcicki, Neal Mohan, the former chief product officer of YouTube and now their new CEO, also believes that independent creators like myself who respond to current events in the world, well, we're just a bunch of basement-dwelling losers who can't do journalism, and so you guys deserve to be censored whenever you try to cover current events. Of course, I actually have a journalism degree from Linfield University, which is one of the better colleges in the United States of America. I believe it's a top 200 school, and considering that there are almost 4,000 or roughly 4,000 colleges in America, being in the top 200 is pretty good. And there's very few schools on the West Coast or the western side of the U.S. that are in the top 200 colleges in America. So, yeah, I have a journalism degree from a pretty good college, and I won't be supported by YouTube's algorithms if I choose to talk about current events. In fact, there are certain current events that if I try to talk about it, YouTube will ban me because it contradicts what the World Health Organization says, or what WHO says. So, yeah, this is all BS. They're all in bed with the legacy media and the deep state and the establishment, and they're just going to keep censoring people with their new CEO as they did when Susan was there. Susan Wojcicki and Neal Mohan share the same opinion about independent creators like myself, and there's no doubt that he agreed with every censorship decision that Susan made when she was the CEO of YouTube. So, YouTube censorship is not going to change with the changing of CEOs at YouTube. If anything, it will continue to get worse. Best case scenario, it will stay the same, which is really bad. So yes, YouTube censorship is not going anywhere despite Susan Wojcicki resigning as CEO of YouTube. But I wanted you guys to know why I'm glad that she's resigning and why I'm not convinced that the new CEO is going to make YouTube a better place for people like me. And that's why it's good to invest in alternatives to YouTube like BitChute, Odyssey, Rumble, YouTube, Joshu TV, and even my own video sharing site, Quarter. So links to all those sites and my channels on them will be in the description box down below. Thank you for watching and have an excellent day.